I don't like dog food, but I have no choice.
Sibel Tete Suarez was a young woman who had been orphaned early in life. Her mother left her in the care of a gambling-addicted aunt, who eventually ended up in prison and was killed there. The loan sharks her aunt owed began taking their rage out on Cece. One night, barely escaping an assault, she jumped onto a private jeep that had been parked nearby and passed out. When she woke up, she found herself in a town she'd never been to before, St. Quentin. Hungry and desperate, Cece wandered through a quiet suburban neighborhood. She caught the scent of food coming from a house and, following it, saw a bowl of cereal on an outdoor table. Without realizing it was dog food, she scarfed it down. That moment sparked an unexpected encounter between her and a man named Levi, a handsome veterinarian. What fate awaits Cece in Levi's world? Oh my God, what is this? Why is there a woman in the back of the jeep? A shrill female voice pierced through her dreams, waking Cece from deep sleep. As she opened her eyes, the bright sunlight blinded her, making her squint. "What's going on?" she mumbled groggily. "There really is a woman back here," said an older man, startled to see Cece curled up on the jeep floor, hugging her scraped knees. "Please, help me," Cece pleaded. "Help! Should we even help her?" The woman snapped. "We don't even know who she is. Look at what she's wearing, like some runaway. Climbing into our jeep like that. This is going to ruin our business." "I didn't even know she was inside," the old man defended himself. "Hey girl, get out," the woman ordered harshly. "You smell disgusting." They both dragged Cece out of the jeep, and she nearly collapsed onto the ground. "She's filthy. Come on, Nando. She might be crazy or something." "She's too pretty to be crazy," Nando muttered. "You pervert. You think every woman's pretty, even the ones who look like homeless runaways." "I'm not crazy," Cece said, holding back tears. "I just don't have anywhere else to go." She chased after the jeep as it drove off, disappearing down the street. Cece sighed and looked at herself. She didn't think she looked like a homeless person, but her tangled hair, muddy legs, and oversized, torn shirt said otherwise. The pajama shorts she had on had been tugged down during the attempted assault the night before. The memory of those 5 men came flooding back. Even though she knew some martial arts, her strength was no match for their knives and her own hunger. When they grabbed her and began tearing at her clothes, it was only a ferocious dog that saved her. "That dog was probably my guardian angel," she whispered, remembering how it chased the attackers away. She looked around, trying to figure out where she was. She stood in the middle of a quiet, upscale neighborhood with neatly trimmed lawns and houses that had 2 or 3 floors. She spotted a sign that read, "Maria Rosa Village, St. Quentin." Her eyes widened. "St. Quentin? God, that's so far from San Rafael. How did I even get here?" She recalled how many towns were between their home and this one. It was clean and peaceful, unlike the chaos she had just left. Even though she had no idea where to go, she started walking, barefoot, her feet stinging from the heat of the pavement. Eventually, her stomach growled loudly, and her whole body ached. She stumbled through the neighborhood until the smell of something cooking, maybe a sauté, hit her nose. Following it like a bloodhound, Cece stopped at a 1-story house with an open gate. She spotted a bowl of food on a table just outside. "There's food on that table," she whispered to herself. She hesitated. "Cece, you can't just take it. It's not yours." But she was starving. She hadn't eaten since yesterday morning. Clutching her rumbling stomach, she finally gave in and rushed toward the table, grabbing the bowl filled with what looked like cereal. She checked to make sure no one was watching and quickly shoveled it into her mouth. It tasted awful, but she didn't care. She needed food. Suddenly, a dog barked from the side of the house. Cece turned and saw a beautiful white dog, its thick fur covering part of its eyes. "I'm sorry, doggy. I didn't mean to steal your food. I was just really hungry," she said, smiling nervously at the dog that kept barking. She guessed if it weren't tied up, it would have attacked her already. She was still chewing when a deep male voice spoke from behind her. "Why did you eat my dog's food?" Cece froze. Her eyes widened in horror. She looked down at the empty bowl. "Wait, what? Dog food? I ate dog food? Oh my God, Cece, you idiot!" She groaned mentally. Mortified, she couldn't even turn to face the man behind her. She tried to think of what to do. Then an idea struck. Maybe I'll pretend to faint." As he stepped closer, she let herself fall, but she hit her head on the edge of the table, and just like that, the fake faint became real. "I can't go out right now, bro. There's someone in the house and I don't know who she is. I think she needs medical attention. I'll update you later when she wakes up." Cece slowly regained consciousness. That voice was the first thing she heard. She winced before even opening her eyes, pain throbbing at her temple, joined by cramps in her stomach. "I'll call you later. She's awake." She opened her eyes carefully. A white ceiling came into view. As she turned her head to the right, a face appeared in her line of sight. She blinked several times, and the features became clear. Thick eyebrows, deep chocolate brown eyes, a straight nose, naturally red lips, and strong cheekbones. "Who are you? Where am I?" she whispered, wondering if she had died. The man looking down at her looked like an angel. "Are you Michael? Or maybe Gabriel?" "Miss, how are you feeling? Are you nauseous? Dizzy? You passed out after eating my dog's food." Cece's eyes went wide and she quickly sat up, only to knock heads with the man leaning over her. "Ow!" they both exclaimed, rubbing their foreheads. "I'm so sorry, really sorry," Cece cried, covering her face with her hands. "Judging by your movements, you seem conscious now. Does your stomach still hurt? What about your head?" "Yeah, my head and stomach ache a little." "It's probably from what you ate. You should see a doctor. Can you look at me?" Though embarrassed, Cece slowly lowered her hands from her face and looked up at the man standing in front of her. He wore black pants and a plain white shirt. Judging by his broad shoulders and lean build, he was very fit. As she looked up into his calm, beautiful eyes again, her stomach growled loudly. She cringed, cheeks flushing with embarrassment. "Looks like you're hungry. Come on, let's go to the kitchen. You need to eat first." He gently helped her up. Cece shivered slightly and swallowed hard when his warm palm pressed against her back through the fabric of her shirt. She followed him to the kitchen, her first time inside such a clean, beautiful house. He served her food, and when she saw a plate of buttered shrimp and sour tamarind fish stew, her mouth watered uncontrollably. Without hesitation, Cece began eating, momentarily setting aside her shame. She only paused when she noticed the man simply watching her. "It's okay, don't mind me. Eat up," he said, amused. She nodded, nearly choking, prompting him to quickly hand her a glass of water. She drank, and her body relaxed. After the meal, he told her to take a bath. Cece was shocked when she saw her reflection in the mirror. She really did look like a street urchin. He handed her a yellow summer dress and new underwear. When she emerged from the bathroom, clean and dressed, the man stared at her as if stunned, before quickly looking away. "I guess I don't need to ask anymore why you ate the dog food," he said as they sat in the living room. "You were hungry, and I get it." "I'm so sorry. I hadn't eaten since yesterday morning." "What? Why didn't you knock? I would have given you food. Where are you from? Don't you have a home?" Cece looked away. She didn't know if she should tell the truth. She was scared her aunt's creditors might track her down. Her life was still in danger. Did you run away from home? How old are you? What's your name? I'm Yora. I'm 19 years old. Oh, so you're not a minor, he said, sounding relieved. Why were you so dirty earlier? What happened to you? Sir, I need help. His thick brows furrowed in concern. Are you looking for a housekeeper? I can work. I'm good with chores. I can cook, clean. Cece trailed off when they heard a voice from the front door. Levi, son. She suddenly felt anxious. What if this person got angry that a stranger was inside their house? The door opened, and in walked a short, chubby woman who looked to be around her Aunt Lolita's age. Levi, did you feed Cholly yet? What about the cat behind the house? The woman stopped mid-sentence when she saw Cece. Oh, a guest? Who are you, sweetheart? My, you're beautiful. Levi, who is this girl? Ma, she's not my girlfriend, Levi replied quickly, gently pulling his mother aside. Not your girlfriend, huh? Then who is she? A friend of yours? I haven't seen her around. Cece gave an awkward smile, unsure how to explain that she had just eaten their dog's food and passed out in their yard. She's probably not from around here, Ma. She showed up earlier. Cholly barked at her. I went outside and found her passed out. I brought her in. Oh my God, you fainted. Are you sick? The woman asked. Cece didn't answer. She wasn't sick. She had only pretended to faint, something that would surely confuse the older woman if she told the truth. How are you feeling now? I'm okay, thank you. If you're really okay, can you tell us where you live? I'll take you home. No, please, Cece cried, nearly tearing up as she remembered everything that happened before she arrived in this place. I don't want to go home. The truth is, I'm looking for work. Work? You're looking for work? The woman's eyes lit up. What a blessing! I've been needing someone to man my shop. Are you interested? She can't stay with us, Ma, Levi interjected. Why not? You know how judgmental the people in this neighborhood can be. And look at her earlier. She didn't seem like she was really looking for a job. Cece looked down. She wanted to cry. If they kicked her out, she had nowhere else to go. Levi, come on. You already fed her and helped her. Just go all in. Let her stay. We need someone for the shop anyway. The woman approached Cece and gently held her hand. Instead of fear, Cece felt comfort in her touch. Don't worry, honey. You'll work for me. I'm kind and I pay well, especially if you can help boost my sales this month. That's not the point, Ma. We don't know who she is. She just showed up out of nowhere. We can't just trust people like that. Miss, if you won't tell me who you are or where you came from, I'll have no choice but to call the police and report that we have a stranger in our village. Cece's heart pounded in her chest as she watched Levi grab his coat from the sofa. He was heading toward the door when she suddenly spoke. Please don't kick me out. I just really need help. Levi stopped in his tracks and turned to look at her. His brows were still drawn, but he was listening. I'm from San Rafael. San Rafael? The woman echoed, surprised. That's so far, sweetheart. My aunt was imprisoned and killed in jail. Cece's voice trembled as she tried to stay strong, though tears began to fall. She was the only one raising me since my parents died. She was both my mum and dad, and now she's gone too. My life was in danger back home. The people she owed money to kept coming after me. They burned down our house while I was sleeping and stole the bail money I had saved for her. The woman staggered slightly, grabbing the edge of the sofa as if the story drained the strength from her. Her eyes filled with pity. I don't have any relatives left to turn to. They all have their own lives and wouldn't help me. Last night, I was nearly assaulted while walking alone. I escaped and fell into a mud patch. Tired and starving, I got into a jeep I didn't even know was going anywhere and ended up here in St. Quentin. Cece's tears continued to fall. And yes, I ate your dog's food outside earlier because I was so hungry. I pretended to faint because I was so embarrassed. The woman rushed over and cupped Cece's face, gazing into her tear-filled eyes. "Oh, sweetheart, what on earth happened to you?" she asked, stroking her back. "Did you hear all that, Levi?" She snapped at her son, who was still standing there watching silently. "You really have no compassion. I'll take care of you, honey. From now on, you'll live here with us. Don't worry about my son. I'm his mother. He has no choice in this. You'll just help watch the store, and we'll pay you. Thank goodness you ended up here. Who knows what those awful men might have done to you? You're such a beautiful girl." "How old are you, sweetie, and what's your name?" "Leah. Leah Suarez. I'm 19 years old." "Well, I'm Lillian. You can call me Aunt Lillian, and this is my son, Levi. He's a doctor. Well, a veterinarian. He may look stern, but he's kind and gentle. Call him Big Brother." Cece glanced at Levi, who was watching her intently, as if trying to figure out whether she was telling the truth or just spinning a story. "Come on, let's head to the kitchen. Help me prepare some snacks and tell me more about your life," Aunt Lillian said warmly, pulling her along with a comforting hand on her back. In the back of his clinic, Levi wrapped a cast around a street dog's injured leg, while Frederick chattered beside him. "So Aunt Lillian really let that girl move in, huh?" Frederick said. "Honestly, I've never seen someone so simple yet so pretty. Or maybe I'm just used to aggressive women around here in St. Quentin." Levi shook his head, annoyed. Ever since Frederick had met Cece 3 days ago, he hadn't stopped talking about her. "If you're planning to make a move on Yora, don't bother. Mama's treating her like a fragile piece of china. Even her name is beautiful. Yora." Frederick snapped his fingers as he said her name. "She really is stunning," he added. "That long curly hair down to her waist. I can't forget how we bumped into each other last night. She came out of the bathroom wearing just an oversized shirt and shorts." Levi closed his eyes, frustrated. He hadn't meant to stare at her thighs, but he couldn't get the image out of his head. His phone buzzed. His mother was calling. "Hey, Ma, what's up? Got a lot of patients?" "Not really, Ma. Just one injured dog. Why?" "Well, Yora and I are at the mall. I'm shopping for clothes for her. The old clothes from your sister didn't fit." Levi smiled. This was why he loved his mother. She was caring, even if she was a bit loud, especially when he didn't eat on time. "My client just called. She's finally signing up for insurance. Big money, son. I can't reschedule. Could you keep Yora company and help her shop? Treat her to a nice meal, too?" Levi paused. Just the thought of seeing Yora again filled him with anticipation. They only saw each other at night since she started working early mornings at the convenience store. "Sure, Ma, I'll take care of it. I'll even pay for everything." "Really?" Aunt Lillian sounded surprised. "Just the other day, you wanted her out of the house. Thank you, son. Be kind to her, okay? Yora's a good girl. Treat her like a younger sister." Levi winced. That wasn't how he saw her at all. He quickly headed to the mall, leaving Frederick behind, who was practically begging to come along just to see Yora again. "Welcome, Doctor," Levi greeted a saleslady at the boutique his mother frequently visited. "Hi, where's the girl my mom brought in earlier?" "She's still in the fitting room, sir. Your mum picked out quite a few clothes for her." Levi sat down on the couch in front of the fitting room, scrolling through his messages. Then the door opened. The sight took his breath away. Time seemed to stop as he stared at Yora. She looked like a goddess. No, an angel. She wore a sky-blue summer dress with delicate ribbon straps that revealed her smooth, creamy shoulders and part of her thighs. "8, what do you think?" Yora asked the saleslady shyly. "Does it look okay?" "You look stunning, Mom. That's my favorite among all the ones your guardian picked." Yora smiled but felt self-conscious. The dress barely reached her knees. "You've got that soft pinkish-white skin, like a smooth apple. You'd look good in anything," the saleslady added. Yora blushed deeply. "The young man's here now," the saleslady whispered. Yora turned and saw Levi's eyes locked on her. She quickly looked down, but his phone slipped from his hand, prompting him to stand. Are you done picking clothes?" he asked, offering a small smile. "Yes," she replied softly, glancing at the 2 baskets filled with clothes Aunt Lillian had chosen, loungewear and uniforms for the shop. "Let's go pay then." "Wait, Levi?" He stopped. "There are too many items here. I'll put some back. I don't have any money." "It's on me, Yora. Don't worry about it. Let's include the dress you're wearing too." "No, it's okay. I just tried it on." "It's beautiful. It suits you." Yora swallowed hard as Levi bit his lip after saying that. It was the first time he had complimented her. He was usually quiet and distant, avoiding conversation or eye contact. "I'll carry the bags." "No, Levi." "I got it. They're not heavy." She reached for the 3 paper bags, but he held on to them, so she didn't insist. "What do you want to eat?" Levi asked. "I'm not hungry, Levi." "Well, I am. Is it okay if I have lunch with you?" Yora looked at Levi's face. A faint smile curved his lips. She felt more at ease when he smiled like that. Her shyness faded. She was about to reply when a group of children ran past her, and one of them accidentally bumped into her. She lost her balance, but Levi dropped the paper bags and quickly caught her in his arms before she could fall. Yora's heart pounded 3 times as fast from the shock. "Are you okay?" She couldn't answer. His minty breath and the warmth of his voice brushed against her cheek, making something flutter deep in her belly. She simply stared at his handsome face. "Are you hurt anywhere?" I'm okay, thank you." He nodded, his eyes filled with concern. "Why is it acting up again?" she thought, referring to the chaos in her stomach that seemed to erupt whenever she was near Levi, like the first time he served her food. She pushed the thought away. Once they got to the restaurant, Levi placed their order, and they began eating. "Do you have any siblings?" Levi asked, breaking the silence. He figured it wouldn't hurt to get to know her better. "No, I don't. I'm not sure why my parents never had more kids. Then Dad passed away from tuberculosis, and Mom left when I was still in grade school. She hasn't returned since." "Not a single message?" "Number she said she was going to work, and then just disappeared." Levi felt a pang of sadness. "Why did your aunt have so much debt?" He paused, realizing he might have overstepped. "Oh, I'm sorry. You don't have to answer if you're uncomfortable." "She liked to gamble," Yora said bluntly. "When she lost, she'd borrow money, and maybe when I needed tuition or school projects, she took out loans to cover those too." "You were studying?" "Of course," she said politely, and Levi pressed his lips together, realizing how old-fashioned he must have sounded. "I was supposed to start college this semester," she added, her tone dropping. "But then everything happened." She went quiet, and Levi noticed her eyes turning red, on the verge of tears. That made him anxious. He hated seeing women cry. "This food is really good," she said, changing the subject. "What's this called again?" Steak, and that's flan." "Ah, steak and flan. It's delicious. I've only ever seen food like this on cooking shows. This is my first time tasting it." She smiled, revealing 2 deep dimples that made Levi's breath catch. He had never seen her smile like that before, and it made him genuinely happy. Even the way she ate was endearing. At home, they rarely ate together. This was the first time he'd seen her so relaxed, cheeks puffed with food, eating happily without embarrassment. "Son, Your sister Kissy's about to give birth, and she needs me." Aunt Lillian was in Levi's office at the vet clinic, packing for a trip to Manila, where her eldest daughter lived. "Why are you only telling me now?" Levi asked. "What about the store? Yora won't have anyone to relieve her if I leave." "That's why I'm telling you, so you'll handle things while I'm gone. Cover the morning shift if you're not too busy at the clinic, and she can take the evenings. Otherwise, we'll just close at night." "But Ma, the store gets busy in the evening, and there are drunk guys who hang around outside." "Oh, so now you're worried about Yora." "How sweet," Aunt Lillian teased. "What's sweet about it? I'm just saying it's dangerous for her to work late." "Tell me honestly, do you like Yora?" "What?" "Mama, lately, you're treating Yora like you love her more than me." "I'm getting jealous." Aunt Lillian smacked him on the arm. "Ever since your dad passed and your sister got married, I've been lonely. Now that Yora's here, I feel like I have a new daughter, and you know what she's been through. Be kind to her while I'm gone." "Fine, yes, Mom," Levi said with mock defeat, making both of them laugh. Later that day, she left for Manila. Levi stayed at the clinic for a few more hours, until he received a call from Mang Rudy, the owner of a small eatery across from their convenience store. "Oh, Mang Rudy, what's up? Levi, it's about Yora." Levi froze at the mention of her name. "What happened?" "She's at the police station. The officers just brought her in." "What? What the hell, girl? You just got here in St. Quentin, and this is what you're doing? Where did Aunt Lillian even find you?" "Pay for my son's medical bills. You nearly broke his arm, you crazy girl." That was the scene Levi walked into at the police station. Mrs. Monet and Mrs. Bettina, hands on their hips, screaming at Yora, who was sitting quietly with her head bowed in front of an officer. Levi rushed in, breathless from running from the clinic. "Excuse me, please don't yell at her. What happened?" Yora looked up the moment she heard his voice. Her teary eyes made Levi's chest ache. "Levi, thank God you're here. This girl, your mum's shopkeeper, just beat up my son Raymond and his friend Greg." Levi's brows furrowed. "Beat up? How?" "That's what I'm wondering too, sir," the female officer behind them chimed in. "Those boys are bigger than her, and yet she managed to take them down. Miss Beautiful here must have hidden skills." "Here, sir, watch this," she said, playing back the CCTV footage. Levi approached the monitor, mouth slightly open in disbelief, as he watched Yora punch Greg and Raymond with clean, practiced blows, sending both boys stumbling and fleeing. He wanted to be impressed. He had no idea she could fight like that. But then again, it also looked violent. "What were you thinking?" Levi snapped. "Do you want to get arrested, Yora?" His voice rose, and Yora blinked in shock. Fear flickered in her eyes. "You have no right to hurt anyone. Is this what you're like where you're from? Violent." "I'm not like that." "Send her away, Levi," one of the women interrupted. "We don't need violent people here. What she did was wrong." Levi's anger was boiling over. He was about to say something else when Yora suddenly ran out of the station. Humiliated by Levi's scolding, Yora ran all the way back to the convenience store. She locked herself in the staff room, sat on the floor, and burst into tears. "Yora, where are you?" She heard Levi's voice calling out. She quickly wiped her tears as he opened the door and found her. She didn't look up. There was a long silence before he knelt beside her, one knee on the floor so they'd be at eye level. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled at you like that. I was just shocked. Can you tell me what really happened?" "I didn't want to fight them. You didn't see the full video. How they tried to hit me with a liquor bottle. I dodged it. They did that to me." "Why?" "When I started working at the store, I noticed they came in pretending to shop, but they were actually stealing. I let it slide, thinking it was a one-time thing, but today they pushed it too far. They handed me play money and told me not to snitch. I tore up the fake bill and tried to grab the stolen items. That's when it escalated. I had to defend myself. Yora shut her eyes tightly, flinching when Levi cursed under his breath. Did the CCTV catch their part too? She nodded. He reached out his hand. Yora stared at it, unsure. So he gently took her hand and helped her stand. Don't worry. As long as we have evidence, nothing bad will happen to you. I've got your back. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? She shook her head. He smiled softly. Why are you smiling? She asked. I'm just surprised. As pretty and delicate as you are, you actually kicked those guys' butts. Delicate? Levi scratched his head, clearly flustered. How'd you learn to fight like that? My childhood best friend's dad was a martial arts instructor. He used to teach us the basics when we were kids. I don't know much, and I couldn't use it back when those creeps tried to hurt me because I was too weak and hungry. Well, at least you know how to defend yourself now. I'll bring the CCTV footage to the police station later. By the way, it's lunchtime. Have you eaten? Not yet. Wait here. I'll go get us something to eat. We'll eat together. And again, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have yelled without hearing you out first. I promise, Yora, I won't do it again. Then he gently patted her head. The moment his hand brushed over her hair, Yora felt her sadness melt into something warmer, something she couldn't explain. Maybe it was just because someone actually cared about her. Days passed quickly. Yora's issue was resolved, and the parents of Raymond and Greg even apologized. Surprisingly, the incident made Yora more well-known in the village, and more customers began visiting the store, especially high school students curious to learn martial arts from her. A few young men also started dropping by regularly, clearly more interested in Yora than the merchandise. Good morning, Mr. Rudy. Good morning, Miss Susan. Yora beamed at the elderly couple she passed while skipping along the street. Well now, you look even more radiant this morning, Yora. You said it, Rudy. She's like an angel, so fair and glowing. Oh, come on. You're flattering me again. Yora laughed, handing them each a cup of coffee she'd bought from the cafe near Aunt Lillian's house. Here, my treat for that sweet talk. The convenience store wasn't far, so she walked there every day. It was part of her morning routine now. Thanks, dear. I haven't had my coffee yet, said Rudy. Yora, swing by the house later. It's my grandson's birthday. Bring Levi too. Will do, Mr. Rudy, she said cheerfully, waving goodbye and stopping in front of the store where she worked. It looked a lot like a typical 7-Eleven. The weather was pleasant and the morning breeze felt refreshing. Even though the town had lots of establishments and people, it was still surrounded by trees and greenery. Good morning, she greeted her first customer, but her smile quickly faded when she saw who it was. Carding, the young man who had been persistently flirting with her for days. Good morning, my beautiful princess. How'd you sleep? Did you dream about me? Yora sighed and tried not to laugh. Every morning, Carding greeted her the same way before heading to school. Why would I dream about you? Because I'm your soulmate, he replied, confidently flashing a grin. He wore a criminology student uniform. He was training to be a police officer. In one hand, he held a notebook. In the other, a flower obviously picked from somewhere nearby. Since the day he first saw Yora in the convenience store, Carding hadn't left her alone. He declared that he was going to woo her. Soulmate, huh? I'd rather dream about goats and cows you're probably offering as a dowry, Yora teased. Ouch! That hurts, princess. But hey, my dad's goats and cows are ready. All that's missing is your sweet yes. Yora burst out laughing and accepted the flower. Well, to be fair, it does smell nice. You're such a clown, Carding. Go on, get to school. You're running late. It's worth being late just to see your pretty face. Don't forget our date tomorrow. Yeah, now go. Not without a goodbye kiss. Yora's eyes widened as he gently took her hand and kissed it. She giggled as he winked and darted away, but her laughter stopped cold when she heard the door chime at the entrance and saw Levi standing there, watching them. His brows were drawn together. Levi walked over, his eyes never leaving Carding as he exited. What date was he talking about? Levi asked Yora sharply. It's not really a date, she mumbled. He just invited me to the park. Tomorrow's Sunday. You're going out with him? Since when? And since when does he call you my princess? Levi's voice rose. Yora blinked, startled by his sudden outburst. He had woken up in a good mood, and now it was completely ruined. How do you even know each other? You two seem way too close. He comes here often. We became friends. Friends? Friends kiss your hand? Levi snapped. Is he your boyfriend? No, he's not. Stop calling me Levi. You keep calling me Big Brother, but we're not siblings. He paused. Do you like that guy, Yora? No, she started, but Levi cut her off. I don't want to know. With a glare, he turned and walked away. He had only dropped by the store to say good morning, but this was what he found, and it pissed him off. What's the problem if Carding kissed her hand? Frederick asked. Levi was back at the clinic, venting to his friend about what he saw in the store that morning. There's no problem if they're dating. They're just kids. Kids? Levi snapped. They're not kids. And that guy, he's a player. I don't want him messing with Yora. Why? Because she lives with us. If something happens to her, it'll be on me and my mom. Frederick burst out laughing, causing Levi to look away, annoyed. You think I'm buying that excuse? Come on, man. You've got a different reason. There's no other reason, Frederick. I'm just concerned. Concerned? About what? Just go back to your office, Levi muttered, pushing his friend out the door, unable to handle the teasing any longer. After Frederick left, Levi slumped into his swivel chair, dragging his hands down his face. God, what's happening to me? He whispered. He thought about Yora's smile, how he loved seeing her laugh. But not with Carding. He missed her more than he should. And now he was angry that she kept calling him Big Brother. Damn it, Levi. He wanted to punch himself. Why was he so bothered that he was 27 and she was 19? Why did their age gap even matter? Ever since they went to the mall together, he noticed something shifting inside him. Being near her triggered emotions he couldn't fully explain. Meanwhile, Yora was stocking canned goods near the counter. Why did he suddenly snap at me? I mean, he didn't want me to call him brother, but what should I call him? Levi? She muttered to herself. His name does suit him, though. Sounds good, she added with a shy smile. After 2 weeks in St. Quentin, she'd started feeling more comfortable around people, especially Levi. She liked when he cooked for her, when he brought her small treats after work. But whenever he got too close, her heart would beat too fast. Do I have a crush on him? She pressed a hand to her forehead. No, I can't. What if he finds out? What if Aunt Lillian finds out? Things will change. So even though they lived in the same house, she did everything she could to avoid him. She woke up earlier than usual to leave for work, pretending to be busy if Levi tried to follow her to the store. In the afternoons, she pretended to be exhausted and went straight to bed so they wouldn't talk. Thanks, Carding. I had so much fun riding those carnival rides, and the food was amazing, she said, laughing. You're not opening the store tomorrow, right? No. Why? I want to take you to our farm. Grandpa's harvesting mangoes. We'll pick some and make mango graham together. Really? Okay. Let me ask Levi first. I'll text you if he says yes. She waved goodbye, and Carding leaned in, suddenly planting a kiss on her cheek. Hey! She squealed. Good night, my princess. Dream of me, he said with a wink, running off. Yora scowled, stunned that he had just stolen a kiss, but she couldn't deny that she had fun with him. She opened the gate to the house and nearly jumped when she found Levi standing there with his hands in his pockets. "Levi, did you close the store early so you could go on that date with him?" His voice was cold, his eyes dark. Levi, How many times do I have to tell you? Don't call me Levi like that," he snapped. Yora stepped back, startled by the sharpness in his voice. "Is that how you work? My mum pays you fairly, and the moment she's gone, you're closing shop early for some loser?" Her eyes welled up. She couldn't believe the man who had once saved her was now judging her so harshly. But he smelled like alcohol. He'd clearly been drinking. So she stayed silent and simply lowered her head, walking past him toward the house. As she passed him, his cold hand gripped her wrist. "Are you avoiding me these past few days because of him? Have you said yes to him?" His voice softened slightly, but there was a trace of pain in his eyes. "Please answer me. We're just friends. He's not my boyfriend." Levi exhaled in relief, and Yora stared at him, confused by his behavior. "Go on inside," he said, finally releasing her and looking away. Yora stepped into the house, completely dazed. The next morning, Yora stood in front of the bathroom mirror, brushing her hair. Her mind was full of questions. Why did Levi act like that last night? And why does it bother me so much? She had only gone out to relax. It wasn't like she had done anything wrong. "But I hate it when he's angry with me," she whispered, setting her brush down. After getting dressed, she walked toward the kitchen, but paused when she saw Levi cooking. "I made breakfast. Come eat." His tone was calm. She was surprised. After what happened the night before, she thought he might ignore her. I'll eat later. I made your favorite, eggs, garlic rice, and crispy fried fish. I also added mangoes on the side." Yora sat across from him silently and began eating. Levi watched her carefully. "I'm sorry for what I said last night. I was drunk. I didn't mean any of it." She looked up, meeting his gaze. "But you meant it when you said I shouldn't call you Levi, right?" "Number, I didn't mean that either. Call me whatever you want." Yora looked away and continued eating. The atmosphere remained heavy between them, so she quickly finished her food and stood. "I'm heading out." He followed her with his eyes as she walked toward the door. "Yora!" She stopped but didn't turn around. "Are you going out with him again today?" "No," she replied without looking back, then stepped out. That night, while wiping the glass door of the store, Yora saw Levi approach. "I brought you dinner." She accepted the paper bag with both hands. "Thanks." He didn't leave right away. "Yora," he said, leaning one arm against the wall, near her. "Can we talk?" "About what?" "I just want to know, do you like him?" Yora's hand tightened around the paper bag. "Why do you keep asking me that?" "Because I need to know." "Why?" "Because Levi paused, his voice low. "I get jealous when I see you with him." Her eyes widened. "I don't want you going out with him anymore." "That's not your decision to make." Levi stepped closer. She backed away instinctively until her back hit the wall. He didn't touch her. He didn't have to. His presence alone made her heart race. "I know I shouldn't feel this way," he whispered, "but I can't help it. You're not just some girl staying in our house. You're not just someone my mom took in. You're someone I think about all the time." Yora's breath caught in her throat. "Levi, don't call me that right now." "What should I call you then?" He didn't answer. Instead, he leaned in, closer, closer, and she could feel his breath on her cheek. She looked up, lips parted, heart hammering. But just before his lips met hers, the sound of a motorbike passing by snapped them out of it. Levi pulled back and turned away. Eat your dinner before it gets cold, he muttered, then walked off. Yora stood frozen, still feeling the heat of his closeness, the words he had said, and the kiss that almost happened. Levi, I need you to look after the store this weekend. I promised the ladies I'd help with their outreach event. It's only for 2 days, so please. Yora placed the food tray on the clinic table and looked at Levi, who was sitting at his desk, scribbling notes. He glanced up. I thought you didn't want to be alone with me anymore. I never said that. You didn't have to. Yora fell silent. Ever since that night, when they almost kissed, things had been strange between them. She didn't know how to act, and Levi had kept his distance. He closed his notebook and stood up. I'll handle the store this weekend. Don't worry. Thank you. Why are you thanking me? For being kind. I'm not kind, he muttered. You are. Yora? She looked at him, but he only shook his head and walked past her. Saturday morning, Yora helped Aunt Lillian and the women's group distribute food packs to the less fortunate in a nearby neighborhood. She smiled as she handed out rice and canned goods to mothers and elderly residents. I love doing this, she said to Aunt Lillian. Helping people makes me feel at peace. That's why I brought you with me, Aunt Lillian said proudly. You're a blessing, Yora. I hope my son realizes that. Yora looked down. He's kind, Auntie, but I don't think he sees me that way. You'd be surprised, Aunt Lillian whispered. Meanwhile, Levi was sweeping the floor at the convenience store. It was his first time working the register, and he was clearly irritated. These kids are too noisy, he grumbled as a group of teens rushed in, laughing and grabbing snacks. The store was packed. Mang Rudy even came by to check on him. Relax, Levi. You're doing fine. You're just not used to this kind of work. Yeah, I miss being around animals. At least they don't talk back. The two men chuckled. Then the door opened and Carding entered, carrying a basket of mangoes. Yo, Dr. Levi. Levi stiffened. I'm just dropping these off for Yora. Tell her I stopped by, yeah? She's not here. Really? Where'd she go? Levi didn't answer. Okay then, just give her this. He placed the basket on the counter and left. Levi stared at the mangoes, jaw clenched. That evening, Yora came back with Aunt Lillian. She was sweaty and tired, her ponytail loose, but she smiled when she saw Levi still at the store. You didn't burn the place down, she teased. I managed, he replied dryly, then handed her the basket. Carding dropped this off. Her smile faded slightly. Oh, thanks. You like mangoes that much? Not really, he just brings them often. Why? Yora didn't answer. Why do you let him do that? He's being nice. Nice? Is that what you call a guy who kisses you without asking? Yora's eyes widened. You saw that? Levi stepped closer. Yes, and I hated it. She stepped back. He didn't mean anything by it. Did it mean anything to you? No. Then stop letting him treat you like that. Why do you care so much? She asked, her voice trembling. Because I can't stand the thought of someone else touching you. They stared at each other, breaths heavy, the store silent except for the hum of the fridge. Levi moved closer again. Tell me to stop, and I will. Yora didn't speak. He raised a hand and gently cupped her cheek. Still, she said nothing. Then he kissed her, softly, slowly, and Yora didn't pull away. Yora's knees nearly gave out. She had never been kissed before. Not like that. Not with so much emotion that her chest felt like it was going to explode. Levi's hand stayed on her cheek, thumb brushing her skin gently, his lips soft but sure. When he finally pulled back, she stood frozen in place. I'm sorry, he whispered. She still didn't move. I know that was selfish. I couldn't hold it in anymore. Yora looked down, cheeks burning. I should go, she said softly, not meeting his eyes. She turned and walked out of the store, leaving Levi standing there, heart pounding in his chest. That night, Yora lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling. She touched her lips, still feeling the ghost of Levi's kiss. "What do I do now?" she whispered. She didn't know what she felt. Confused, happy, terrified. All she knew was that her heart had never raced like that before. The next morning, she went about her chores quietly. She avoided Levi, who also seemed to be keeping his distance. When they finally bumped into each other at the dining table, neither of them said a word. "I have a vet call today," he finally said, eyes fixed on his plate. "I'll be out late." "Okay," she replied, voice barely audible. They ate in silence. After breakfast, Levi left. Yora exhaled slowly and returned to the store. Later that afternoon, a black SUV pulled up outside the convenience store. A well-dressed woman stepped out, sunglasses covering her face. Yora was behind the counter, organizing receipts, when the woman walked in. "Hello, can I help you?" she asked. The woman removed her sunglasses slowly. "I'm looking for Levi." Yora straightened. "He's out on a vet call. May I ask who you are?" "I'm his fiancée." Yora froze. The woman smiled, tight, rehearsed. "You must be the housemaid Aunt Lillian told me about." Tell Levi to call me when he gets back. We have a wedding to plan, and I'm not fond of delays." With that, she turned and walked out, heels clicking against the tile floor. Yora stood behind the counter, heart sinking, hands trembling. Yora didn't know how long she stood there, gripping the edge of the counter as the woman's words echoed in her head. Fiancé, wedding, housemaid. The rush of confusion, embarrassment, and pain was overwhelming. She forced herself to move, robotically continuing her work for the rest of the afternoon. When Aunt Lillian arrived with groceries, Yora didn't mention the visit. That evening, she sat in the garden, hugging her knees. Levi came home after sunset. She heard the gate creak, the sound of his footsteps on the porch. He saw her and stopped in front of the garden path. "Yora." She looked up slowly. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked softly. "Tell you what?" "That you're engaged." Levi's jaw tensed. "She came here?" "She did. She said you're planning a wedding." "I'm not. She and I. It was arranged by our parents, years ago, but I never agreed to it." Yora looked away. She didn't seem to think it was over. Levi stepped closer. "Because she won't let go. But I've never loved her. I haven't seen her in over a year. I didn't even know she was back in the country." Yora stood up and crossed her arms tightly across her chest. "You kissed me, Levi. And now I find out you have a fiancé? I told you, I'm not marrying her. But she thinks you are, and I'm just some girl staying at your house. What does that make me?" "You're not just some girl. You're the only one He stopped himself. "The only one what?" she asked, voice trembling. He didn't answer. "I'm going back inside," she whispered, walking past him without waiting for a reply. The next few days were unbearably awkward. Yora avoided him. She stopped eating meals with Aunt Lillian and Levi, claiming she was too tired from work. She left early for the store and came home late. Levi didn't push. He just watched her from a distance, silently. Then one night, Aunt Lillian called her into the living room. "Sweetheart, come sit for a minute." Yora sat down cautiously. "What's going on between you and my son?" Yora's heart skipped. "Nothing, Auntie." "Are you sure?" "Yes." Aunt Lillian sighed. "Yora, you're like a daughter to me. I brought you into this house not just because you needed help, but because you helped me too. You brought life back into our home. But if things between you and Levi are causing pain, I need to know." Yora lowered her head. "I don't want to be a burden." "You're not, but I can't help if you shut me out. I need some space. Aunt Lillian reached over and gently squeezed her hand. Okay, but if you ever need anything at all, I'm here. Yora nodded, tears threatening to fall. The following Sunday, Yora stood behind the store counter, expression blank as she rang up a customer's groceries. The woman offered her a polite smile, which Yora returned automatically. When the customer left, she sighed, resting her elbows on the counter. Her chest still felt heavy. She hadn't spoken to Levi properly in days, and the silence between them was more painful than anything he could have said. The chime above the door jingled again. She looked up and froze. It was Levi. He didn't speak at first. He just walked up to the counter and placed a small paper bag in front of her. "What's this?" she asked cautiously. "Snacks," he said. "I passed by the bakery earlier and remembered you liked these." She stared at the bag for a second, then back at him. "You didn't have to." "I know." They stood in silence. Then Levi cleared his throat. "Do you want to go for a walk?" Yora blinked. "Now?" "It's Sunday. You're off at 4, right? I'll wait." She hesitated, then gave a slight nod. At exactly 4 o'clock, she stepped out of the store, closing the gate behind her. Levi was waiting by the lamppost, hands in his pockets. They walked side by side down the narrow road, leading to a wooded path behind the village. Neither of them spoke until they reached a quiet spot near a small creek. Levi sat on a flat rock and gestured for her to join him. "I used to come here when I was younger," he said. "Whenever I was angry, confused, overwhelmed, Yora sat beside him, knees pulled to her chest. "I feel all of those things right now," she admitted. He looked at her. "Me too. I'm sorry for avoiding you," she said after a while. "I'm sorry for hurting you," he replied. They sat in stillness, the rustling leaves and soft gurgle of the creek filling the space between them. "I don't know what we are, Levi. You don't have to define it yet, but people are watching, talking, and your fiancé." "She's not my fiancé," he said firmly. "My parents pushed that arrangement. I never agreed. I've already told her I'm not marrying her." "And what about me?" He looked her in the eye. "I don't know what's going to happen, Yora. I just know I don't want you to leave. I don't want to lose you." Her lips parted, her breath catching in her throat. "You make me feel things I've never felt before," he continued. "And I know I mess things up, but I'm willing to figure this out, if you'll let me." She didn't reply right away, then she leaned her head on his shoulder. Levi closed his eyes, letting the quiet moment speak for them both. "You okay, Yora?" Aunt Lillian asked, as she stepped into the kitchen. Yora was washing dishes, her hands moving in slow, distracted motions. "Huh? Oh yes, Auntie, I'm okay." "You sure? You've been humming to yourself since you came home." Yora flushed, quickly drying her hands with a towel. "I just had a peaceful day, that's all." Aunt Lillian gave her a knowing smile. "I'm glad. It's nice to see you smiling again." Yora bit her lip and nodded. Upstairs, Levi stood in the hallway, listening quietly. He smiled to himself before heading to his room. Later that week, Yora sat outside the store with a notebook in her lap. She was writing down inventory numbers, checking the stock deliveries. Carding showed up with his usual swagger, holding 2 bottles of soda. "Hey, Princess, missed me?" Yora looked up. "Carding, what are you doing here?" "Can't I visit my favorite girl?" She stood and dusted off her hands. "I'm a little busy right now." "Come on, just 10 minutes. Let's go sit over there." He pointed to the wooden bench near the mango tree across the road. Yora hesitated, then sighed. "Okay, just 10 minutes. As they walked across the street, Levi emerged from the vet clinic. He saw them sit down, Carding leaning close, gesturing animatedly, Yora smiling politely. Levi felt something twist in his chest. Yora, why are you letting that guy hang around again? Levi asked that evening as she was cleaning the store shelves. She paused, wiping the rag across the top of the cereal boxes. He's a friend. You keep saying that. Because it's true. Levi stepped closer. I thought we talked about this. We did, but we also agreed we weren't going to define anything. Levi ran a hand through his hair, frustrated. I'm not trying to control you, but I don't like the way he looks at you. You're not my boyfriend, Levi, she said gently. He looked at her, stunned by her words. You said you didn't want to lose me, she added. But you can't keep pushing me away when it's convenient. I'm not. You are, she said, her voice firmer now. If we're not going to define anything, then you don't get to act like you own me. She turned and walked away, leaving him speechless. Yora wiped a tear from her cheek as she entered her room. She didn't know why it hurt so much. Maybe because she had hoped Levi would fight harder. Maybe because she'd allowed herself to believe something real was growing between them. But she couldn't keep being confused, not when she was trying to rebuild her life. The next day, she focused on work. She organized shelves, double-checked inventory, and kept herself busy to avoid thinking about him. Aunt Lillian noticed. You're unusually quiet today, she said, while slicing vegetables in the kitchen. Did something happen? Yora shook her head. Just tired. Well, take it easy. You've been doing great. Yora smiled faintly and returned to the store. Meanwhile, Levi sat in his office at the clinic, barely touching the files on his desk. His phone buzzed. Frederick. Hey man, you okay? You've been ignoring my messages. I'm fine, Levi muttered. No, you're not. What happened? Levi sighed. I messed up. I keep saying I don't want to rush things, but I get mad when I see her with someone else. I'm such a damn hypocrite. Maybe you just need to tell her how you really feel. Levi didn't answer. You still there? Yeah. Then go tell her, before someone else really does steal her away. That evening, Yora stepped outside the store to lock up when she saw Levi standing by the gate, hands in his pockets. Levi, I need to talk to you. She hesitated, then stepped closer. I was wrong, he began. I've been acting like I can claim you without giving you anything in return. That's not fair. She looked at him, waiting. I've been scared, he continued, of what people will say, of how fast everything's happening, but none of that matters if I lose you. Yora's breath hitched. I want you, Yora. Not as a maybe, not as a question mark. I want to be the man you come home to, the one who walks beside you every day, if you'll let me. She stared at him, heart pounding. Then slowly, she nodded. Levi stepped forward, reached for her hand, and laced his fingers with hers. This time she didn't pull away. The next few days were filled with a warmth Yora had never felt before. Levi walked her to work every morning, dropped by the store during lunch breaks just to see her smile, and brought her favorite snacks without asking. Even Aunt Lillian noticed. You two are glowing, she teased one afternoon as she passed by the store and caught them laughing by the register. Yora blushed. Levi just chuckled and slipped his hand into Yora's under the counter. That Saturday night, the village hosted its annual street dance festival. Colorful lanterns hung across the plaza, and the air buzzed with music, food stalls, and laughter. Children ran barefoot, teenagers posed for photos, and couples held hands under the fairy lights. Yora stood near the edge of the crowd, watching with wide eyes. It was her first time attending something like this. You look beautiful, Levi said, appearing beside her. She turned. He wore a crisp polo shirt and dark jeans, hair still slightly damp from his shower. You cleaned up nice, she teased. He grinned. Only because I knew you'd be here. They walked around the plaza, tried a few snacks, and watched the dance competition. Halfway through, Levi leaned closer. Want to get out of here? Where to? You'll see. He took her to the hill, just beyond the village, where the stars were brightest. They sat on a patch of grass, the town's glowing lights twinkling below them. It's beautiful, Yora whispered. So are you. She looked at him, heart fluttering. Levi reached into his pocket and pulled out a small folded piece of paper. What's this? She asked. Open it. She unfolded the note and saw his handwriting. Will you be my girlfriend? She laughed softly, eyes shining. Really? You couldn't just ask me? I wanted it to be memorable. She looked at him and nodded. Yes. Levi smiled, then pulled her into a gentle hug. Her head rested against his chest, and for the first time in a long time, she felt like she was exactly where she belonged. Girlfriend? Levi repeated the word as they walked back down the hill, hand in hand. I like the sound of that. Yora giggled, nudging his arm with her shoulder. You're so cheesy. Only for you. They reached the house and stood at the gate, neither wanting to say good night yet. Sleep well, Levi said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. You too. He leaned in and kissed her forehead gently before stepping back. Yora went inside, smiling to herself as she climbed the stairs. The next morning, she woke up early, energized and humming to herself as she tidied her room. She picked a light blue dress from her small wardrobe and pulled her hair into a half-up ponytail. At breakfast, Aunt Lillian raised an eyebrow. Well, someone looks radiant today. Yora blushed. It's just a good morning. Levi entered the kitchen and stopped when he saw her. Wow. Wow what? She asked, pretending not to notice his gaze. You look incredible. Aunt Lillian cleared her throat loudly. Keep it PG in my kitchen, please. They both laughed and joined her at the table. At the store, later that day, Carding appeared with a confused expression. Hey, Princess, you didn't reply to my message. Oh, sorry, I've been busy. I brought you something. He pulled out a small paper bag with cookies. That's sweet, but I can't accept it. He frowned. Why not? Before she could answer, Levi stepped out from the back room with a clipboard in hand. She's taken, he said calmly. Carding stared between them. Oh, so it's official now? Yora nodded. Carding smiled, a little tight but genuine. Well, I guess I'll back off then. No hard feelings? No hard feelings, Yora said kindly. He handed the cookies to a nearby kid and walked off. Levi turned to her. You okay? She smiled. Yeah, you? He reached for her hand. Much better now. I'm going to visit my sister for a few days, Aunt Lillian announced over dinner. She's not feeling well, and I want to check on her. Yora looked up from her plate. Do you want us to come with you? No, sweetheart. You two stay here and look after the house and the store. Levi can manage, can't you? He nodded. Of course. Well then, Aunt Lillian smiled. You two behave while I'm gone. Yora and Levi exchanged glances, cheeks flushed. The next morning, Aunt Lillian left early. Yora waved goodbye at the gate and stood watching until the car turned the corner. When she went back inside, Levi was sitting on the couch, reading something on his phone. Want to go out today? He asked, looking up. Just us? Yora blinked. Like a date? He nodded. Yeah, you've been working hard. You deserve a break. She smiled. Okay, where are we going? You'll see. They drove out to a nearby lakeside park, a quiet area surrounded by tall trees and soft breeze. Levi brought a picnic basket, and they laid a blanket on the grass under a shady tree. Yora took her shoes off and wiggled her toes in the soft earth. "This is beautiful," she said. "I thought you'd like it." They ate sandwiches, shared stories, and laughed like no one else existed. After lunch, Levi lay back and looked up at the sky. "I used to dream about this," he murmured. "About what?" "Having someone to share days like this with. Just peaceful." Real Yora lay beside him, their shoulders touching. "Well, now you do," she whispered. He turned to face her. "Yora." She turned her head too, and their eyes met. "I love you." Her heart stopped. "What?" "I know it's fast, and I know everything's been unexpected, but I love you, and I'm not afraid to say it anymore." She looked at him, eyes wide and shining. "I love you too, Levi." He cupped her face with one hand and kissed her, softly, sweetly, fully. Yora lay in bed that night, staring at the ceiling in the dark. She replayed the moment over and over, Levi saying he loved her, the way he held her, the warmth in his eyes when he kissed her. Everything felt surreal, beautiful, like a dream she was afraid to wake up from. Her heart beat a little faster every time she thought about it. She rolled onto her side and hugged her pillow, a smile creeping onto her lips. The next day, they were back to their routines, Levi at the clinic, Yora at the store. But something had changed. They exchanged longer glances, secret smiles. When Levi dropped by during lunch, he reached over the counter and squeezed her hand before walking out. The townspeople started to notice. Mang Rudy chuckled to himself when he saw Levi waiting by the store gate at closing time. "So it's official, huh?" he said. Levi just nodded, trying and failing not to grin. That weekend, Aunt Lillian returned. Yora greeted her at the door with a hug. "Did you have a good visit, Auntie?" "I did. My sister's better now. But you look even better than when I left." Yora blushed. At dinner, Aunt Lillian set her utensils down and looked between them. "Okay, what's going on?" Levi leaned back in his chair, trying to act casual. "What do you mean?" "You know exactly what I mean." Yora looked at Levi, who finally said, "We're together." Officially. Aunt Lillian gasped, clapping her hands once. "Finally! You two were dancing around each other for weeks." "You're not mad?" Yora asked shyly. "Mad? Sweetheart, I've been waiting for this." She reached across the table and held both their hands. "I'm happy for you. Just promise me you'll take care of each other." "We will," Levi said sincerely. Yora nodded, her eyes glistening. The following week, Yora returned home from the store to find Levi waiting for her on the porch. He looked tense, his arms crossed as he leaned against the post. "Levi, is everything okay?" He looked up and straightened. "We need to talk." She stepped closer. "What is it?" "My ex-fiancée. She showed up again." Yora froze. "What?" "She came to the clinic this afternoon, said she still has every intention of marrying me, that she won't back off." Yora's stomach twisted. "What did you tell her?" "I told her no. Again, I told her I'm with someone else, and that I love you." Yora's eyes widened. "She didn't take it well," Levi added, "but I don't care. I'm not letting her come between us." Yora slowly exhaled, the tension easing from her shoulders. "She scares me," she admitted. Levi stepped forward and took her hands. "She doesn't get to intimidate you. You're not alone. You've got me. Always." She nodded, squeezing his hands in return. But the next day, something unexpected happened. Yora was on her way to the market when a black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down slowly. It was her, Levi's ex-fiancée. "Get in, we need to talk," the woman said coolly. Yora froze. "I don't want trouble," she said quietly. "Then you'll listen." Against her better judgment, Yora opened the door and sat in the passenger seat. The woman didn't waste time. "You're nothing. You think just because you live in Levi's house and work at a store, you're on his level? You're not. He's only playing with you." Yora's hands clenched in her lap. "You think you know him? I've known him since college. I know his family. I know his world. He's not going to throw that away for someone like you." "I know who he is," Yora said, voice trembling, "and I know he's not yours anymore." The woman laughed mockingly. "We'll see how long you last." Yora opened the door and got out without another word. Her legs shook as she walked the rest of the way to the store. That evening, Levi noticed the change in her. "You're quiet. Did something happen?" She shook her head. "Just tired." He didn't press, but as she turned to walk away, he caught her arm gently. "Don't let anyone get in your head. No one decides our story but us." She nodded slowly, eyes brimming with tears she refused to let fall. Levi stood outside the clinic the next morning, waiting. When the same black car pulled up near the curb, he walked straight to it and opened the passenger door without invitation. "You and I need to talk, now," he said, jaw tight. His ex-fiancée blinked but said nothing as he got in and shut the door behind him. "I don't know what you think you're doing," he began, voice low and furious, "but it ends today." "Levi!" "Number, you don't get to come into my life and threaten the woman I love. She's not just anyone. She's everything to me. And if you try to mess with her again, I swear." "Are you really throwing everything away for her?" she interrupted. "Your family's plans, your future." "You don't get to decide my future." "I do." She stared at him for a long time before scoffing and shaking her head. "You'll regret it." "Number, I regret not speaking up sooner." With that, he stepped out of the car and slammed the door behind him. Later that afternoon, Yora sat behind the store counter with a heavy heart. She hadn't told Levi about the car ride yesterday, not yet. She didn't want to stir more drama. The bell above the door rang, and she looked up to see Levi entering, wind-blown and out of breath. Without a word, he walked over, pulled her out from behind the counter, and held her tightly. "I took care of it," he whispered. Yora wrapped her arms around his waist. "You didn't have to. I wanted to. She won't bother you again." They stood like that for a long time, wrapped in the safety of each other. That night, they sat on the porch, watching the stars in comfortable silence. Levi gently took her hand. "You know what I realized?" "What?" "You're the first person I've ever really fought for, and I'd do it all over again." Yora leaned her head against his shoulder, her heart full. For the first time in a long time, she felt truly safe, truly loved. A few weeks passed in quiet bliss. Levi and Yora settled into a rhythm. Days filled with work and routine, nights filled with long talks, shared meals, and soft laughter. People in the village accepted their relationship with ease. The gossip that once lingered around Yora faded, replaced by warmth and familiarity. She had become one of them. One Sunday morning, Yora and Aunt Lillian were sorting laundry in the backyard. "So," Aunt Lillian began with a sly smile, "any plans for the future?" Yora paused, unsure how to respond. "Future? I mean, are we expecting a wedding invitation anytime soon?" Yora blushed and dropped a towel. "Auntie?" "What?" The older woman laughed. "I'm not getting any younger. I want grandbabies I can spoil rotten." "We haven't even talked about that." "Maybe you should." Yora's heart fluttered at the thought, but also clenched with nervousness. Marriage? Was that really possible? That evening, Levi invited Yora to dinner at a small lakeside restaurant. He wore a dark button-up shirt, and she wore a simple white dress. They sat under string lights, the air cool and still. "Why does this feel so serious?" Yora teased as she sipped her iced tea. Levi smiled. "Because it is." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Her eyes widened. "Levi, I know it's fast. I know we've only just begun. But when you know, you know. And I've never been more sure of anything in my life." He opened the box. A delicate silver ring sparkled inside. "Yora, will you marry me?" She covered her mouth with both hands, eyes brimming with tears. "Yes," she whispered. "Yes, Levi, I will." He stood and slipped the ring onto her finger before pulling her into a warm, tight embrace. Applause erupted from nearby tables. Yora laughed through her tears, and Levi kissed her forehead. They stood there under the lights, wrapped in each other, the lake quietly shimmering behind them, as if blessing the beginning of their forever. The wedding planning began almost immediately. Aunt Lillian couldn't hide her excitement. She called relatives, arranged meetings with local suppliers, and even pulled out her mother's old lace veil. "You're going to be the most beautiful bride this town has ever seen," she told Yora as they browsed through fabric samples at the tailor's shop. Yora smiled shyly, overwhelmed but happy. The thought of marrying Levi, of being his wife, filled her with both joy and disbelief. How had her life changed so much in just a few months? One evening, as Yora organized the store shelves, Levi walked in carrying a box. "What's that?" she asked. He placed it on the counter and opened it. Inside was a pair of simple, elegant shoes. "For the wedding," he said. "I saw them and thought of you." Yora picked them up, touched by the gesture. "They're perfect." He leaned over the counter, brushed a kiss against her cheek. "So are you." The night before the wedding, Yora stood in front of her bedroom mirror in her nightgown, holding the wedding dress Aunt Lillian had pressed and hung carefully nearby. She ran her fingers over the fabric, heart pounding. Was this really happening? She remembered where she had come from, how lost she felt when she arrived in this town, and now she was about to marry the man who had become her home. Tears welled in her eyes, not from fear, but gratitude. Levi, meanwhile, sat with Frederick on the clinic porch, both holding bottles of soda. "Can you believe it?" Frederick asked. You, the grumpy town vet, getting married." Levi chuckled. "I can't believe it either." "But you're ready?" He looked out at the quiet street, then up at the stars. "I've never been more ready." The morning of the wedding dawned with golden sunlight pouring through the windows. Yora stepped into her dress with Aunt Lillian's help. Her hair was tied back in soft waves, adorned with tiny pearls. "You look like a dream," Aunt Lillian whispered, eyes misty. At the small chapel, decorated with white blooms and soft blue ribbons, the villagers gathered to witness the event they had quietly rooted for all along. Levi stood at the altar, nerves tightening in his chest, until he saw Yora walking down the aisle. Everything else disappeared. She reached him, trembling slightly, and he took her hand in his. "You ready?" he whispered. She nodded. "With you? Always." The vows were short, but every word was heartfelt. Levi spoke with unwavering conviction, his voice low but steady. "I never expected you to walk into my life the way you did, but you changed everything. I promise to love you, protect you, and walk beside you for the rest of my days." Yora's voice quivered, but her gaze was firm. "You gave me a home when I had none. You saw me when I felt invisible. I promise to love you, to believe in you, and to never take this life we build for granted." The pastor smiled warmly as he pronounced them husband and wife. "You may now kiss the bride." Levi pulled her close and kissed her, softly but deeply, as the crowd cheered. The reception was held at Aunt Lillian's garden, transformed into a charming venue with fairy lights, white canopies, and a buffet of home-cooked dishes. Yora changed into a simpler dress after the ceremony. Her feet were sore, but she couldn't stop smiling. Levi barely left her side. They danced under the stars to a slow tune played by a local acoustic band. The village kids twirled between tables, and the elders chuckled over slices of chocolate cake. Aunt Lillian raised her glass. "To my son and my new daughter," she said, voice brimming with pride. "May your love be gentle, strong, and enduring." Yora's eyes filled with tears as she hugged her. Later that night, Levi and Yora returned home. The house was quiet, lit only by the soft glow of the porch light. Yora stepped inside and looked around. Everything looked the same, but felt different now. Levi came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "Mrs. Carter," he whispered in her ear. She turned, laughing. "That's going to take time to get used to." "I'll say it until it doesn't." He kissed her gently, then picked her up and carried her across the threshold into their bedroom. The door closed behind them, and just like that, their forever began. Morning sunlight filtered through the curtains as Yora slowly opened her eyes. Levi was still asleep beside her, one arm draped across her waist, his breathing calm and even. She watched him for a moment, her heart full. It felt unreal, waking up like this, in the arms of her husband. She carefully slipped out of bed, pulled on a robe, and padded barefoot to the kitchen. She made coffee, humming softly as the scent filled the room. A few minutes later, Levi appeared at the doorway, rubbing his eyes. "You left me alone in bed on our first morning as a married couple," he teased, voice still husky. "I was making coffee." He grinned and stepped behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. "I like this. You, me, mornings." "Me too," she whispered. Later that week, life began to settle into a new rhythm. Yora continued helping at the store, though Aunt Lillian insisted she take more breaks. "You're married now," she joked. "Let him pamper you." Levi split his time between the clinic and home. He came home early when he could, bringing dinner or surprising her with little things: a book, a scarf, a potted plant. One afternoon, he came in holding a small white puppy. "What is that?" Yora exclaimed. "Our first baby," Levi said with a wink. She knelt down, giggling as the puppy licked her hand. "He's so cute. We'll call him Lucky," Levi said, "because that's how I feel every time I see you." Yora rolled her eyes, but her smile betrayed her. On Sundays, they took long walks by the lake, sometimes with Lucky trotting ahead of them. They sat on the same hill where Levi had proposed, now their favorite spot. Sometimes they talked about the future, about opening another store, maybe moving to a slightly bigger house, starting a family. But most days they just enjoyed the quiet happiness that came with being together. No more what-ifs, no more waiting, just love, deep and simple and sure. One afternoon, Yora sat by the window with a cup of tea in hand, gently swaying in the small wooden rocker Levi had fixed for her. Lucky was asleep at her feet. Rain began to fall, soft, steady, calming. She watched it with quiet contentment, her other hand resting over her stomach. A tiny smile tugged at her lips. She hadn't told Levi yet, not because she was afraid, but because she wanted it to be special. That evening, as Levi finished putting away his tools in the shed, Yora called him into the living room. He walked in, wiping his hands with a towel. "What's up?" he asked, noticing the way she stood in the center of the room, barefoot and glowing. "I have something to show you." She handed him a small, square envelope. Inside was a folded sheet of paper with a hospital's logo at the top. As his eyes scanned the words, his breath caught. He looked up at her slowly, disbelief flickering across his face. "You're—" She nodded. Tears brimmed in his eyes. "We're going to have a baby," she whispered. He didn't speak. He just crossed the room in 2 steps and wrapped her in his arms, holding her as if he'd never let go. Aunt Lillian cried when she found out. She immediately started knitting tiny hats and sewing soft blankets. The neighbors brought fruits, baby books, and advice, solicited or not. Yora laughed often, her belly growing rounder by the month. Levi was by her side through every checkup, every craving, every moment. "Do you think it's a boy or girl?" he'd ask as they lay in bed at night. "I don't care," she'd say, "as long as the baby's healthy." "Just like their mum," he'd reply. One clear spring morning, Yora gave birth to a healthy baby girl. They named her Ilara, a name that meant shining light, and that's exactly what she became. A new chapter, a new beginning, a life born from love, nurtured in kindness and protected by 2 hearts that had found each other when they both least expected it. Ilara grew quickly. At just 6 months, she already had Levi's eyes, deep brown and full of mischief, and Yora's smile, soft and calming. Levi couldn't go more than an hour without checking in on her. Even between vet calls, he often returned home with tiny toys or baby books, and Yora would just shake her head with amusement. "She doesn't even have teeth yet," she said one night as he brought home a singing teether shaped like a turtle. "She'll need it eventually," he grinned. Yora leaned against the doorway, watching him cradle Ilara, gently rocking her to sleep while humming a lullaby. Her heart felt full. On Ilara's first birthday, they held a simple celebration in the backyard. Aunt Lillian made her famous stew, the neighbors brought pastries, and Frederick showed up with balloons. Ilara sat on Levi's lap, fascinated by the colorful cupcake in front of her. "Go ahead," Yora encouraged, holding up a camera. "Blow out the candle," Ilara babbled and slapped the cupcake instead, frosting flying onto Levi's shirt. Everyone burst into laughter. Levi looked down at the mess and shrugged. "Guess she takes after me." Later that evening, after the guests had left and Ilara had fallen asleep, Yora and Levi stood under the stars. "She's perfect," he whispered. "She is." "And you," he added, turning to face Yora. "You're everything I didn't know I needed." She leaned into him, arms wrapped around his waist. "I'm just glad we found each other." They stood like that in the quiet, letting the night wrap around them like a soft promise. Time passed gently. Years rolled on, but the love remained constant. The vet clinic expanded. The store grew busier. Ilara started school, then began drawing crayon pictures of their family on the fridge, always with a dog and a house under a bright yellow sun. Levi and Yora never forgot what it took to build the life they had. They kept showing up for each other, in small ways, in big ones, through ordinary days and occasional storms. Their story didn't end with a wedding or a baby. It continued, in laughter shared across a dinner table, in hands held during long walks, in soft kisses goodnight, and whispered, "I love yous," before sunrise. It continued in the life they built and the love they never stopped choosing.